Astronomy 1100 video presentation for Jessica, Dilraj, and Bianca, and our topic was water on the moon. Why are people interested in finding a source of water on the moon? Well, originally, I just thought it was so people could possibly live on the moon one day. So water might be a step in that process. Although this is one reason. I did not know that the other reason is for astronauts. You may ask, why would it matter if there were water on the moon for astronauts? Going to the moon. Although humans have not landed on the moon since the 1970s, there has been ongoing explorations of the moon to discover anything and everything they can about it. It is in the works to physically go to the moon again, but with that comes a massive expense. Take into account the Artemis program. It is estimated that it will cost about $28 billion USD in total for this mission to the moon. Additionally, it can cost up to 1.2 million USD to send just 1 kilogram of material or supplies to the moon. If astronauts could go up to the moon and stay for longer periods of time, not only could this lead to some fascinating discoveries, but this would be a lot more cost efficient, and having accessible water on the moon could be a key to longer stays. On the previous slide, I said that finding water on the moon could be the key to a longer stay. It is estimated that astronauts could stay anywhere up to 6 months before they have to return to Earth because of radiation. Having water could make these 6-month trips a reality. Water for drinking, maybe growing food. Who knows what the possibilities could be if there were accessible water found on the moon. And of course, if there was accessible water on the moon, there lies the possibility of the possible inhabiting of the moon one day. The search for another habitable planet other than Earth is always something that scientists are trying to find. Would you go live on the moon? What is our current understanding of whether or not water exists on the moon? Our current understanding on whether or not there's water on the moon is yes. Yes, there is. But it's not water. It is referred to as water ice. And where do we find this water ice? What is water ice? Well, in simple terms, it's frozen water. The moon has extreme temperatures in the sun and in the shadows, and it was thought that all the water had been evaporated by the sun on the moon. But because the moon is not tilted like Earth, there are no seasons, and also there are parts of the moon that never get sunlight, and these parts are the North and South Pole. And in 1994 and 1998, NASA's Clementine mission suggested that there was ice in the permanently shadowed parts of the moon. If you look at the picture I have on the slide, you will see all those little blue dots on the North and the South Pole, and that has been discovered as water ice. In 2018, the Moon Mineralogy Mapper represented all the minerals found on the moon, and as you can see on the slide on the picture on the left, the water is represented in the blue covering the North and the South Pole. In 2020, NASA announced the discovery of water on the sunlit surfaces of the moon in the Clavius crater, and you can see this as an example on the right-hand side of the slide. This was proof that water could exist in the sunlight portions of the moon. Furthermore, in 2023, came the first detailed wide area map of water on the moon. This new map of water distribution on the moon has provided hints about how water may be moving across the moon's surface. So there you have it. Our current understanding about water on the moon is that there is water on the moon, in the shadows and now in the sunlight portions as well, and we call this water water ice.
Water on the moon is a topic that is quite interesting. It is a topic that has received a great deal of research, as well as further exploration from NASA, as NASA is one of the main air and space research agencies that provides credible and important information regarding new findings. The information they provide shapes the population's ideas of topics like water on the moon. I will go over the timeline of any evidence or information that NASA has provided regarding water on the moon, which has developed or changed our ideas in the last few centuries. Findings date back to as early as 1645, when early astronomers first noticed dark spots on the moon's surface, which are identified as Maria, a Latin word for seas. This map was a starting point of further research in regard to water on the moon. Fast forward to 1892, when American astronomer William Pickering found that the moon has no atmospheric clouds, stating that the possibility of water on the moon is impossible, as water may evaporate immediately. This is what Pickering included through his measurements. Nearly a century later, in the early 1960s, scientists began to analyze volatiles. This describes when substances are prone to vaporize at low temperatures. This began to spark the news of the potential of water being on the moon. Kenneth Watson posted a paper which explains the process of ice sticking to the bottom of craters, which would then never receive sunlight, while other areas of the moon would reach a temperature so hot that water would evaporate instantly. The Apollo landings was the most hands-on analysis of water on the moon, as astronauts were able to explore the moon on foot and directly look for signs of water. Astronauts were able to acquire soil samples, which depicted no clear signs of water. This had discouraged researchers for decades, as the potential of water on the moon was not considered thereafter. This was until the NASA Clementine mission in 1994, when NASA decided to orbit the moon for 2 months to collect information. Findings showcased that there was ice in shadowed regions of the moon. The Lunar Prospector mission focused on permanently shadowed craters and found high concentrations of hydrogen, which was never exposed to sunlight. However, the information was not completely valid due to low resolution images. As technology had advanced significantly from past explorations and findings, past evidence was then revisited. Hydrogen was found in the tiny beads of volcanic glass. Since there wasn't any recent eruptions, this showed that volcanoes erupted during the ancient times. This indicated that the preserved hydrogen led to the origin of lunar water. This led to the idea that there was water on the moon in ancient times, as the volcanoes would create reserves for water. The Indian Space Research Organization's Chandrayaan-1 and NASA's Cassini and Deep Impact missions detected signs of hydrated minerals that took the shape of oxygen and hydrogen molecules in sunlit areas of the moon. They found that amount of hydration depended on time of the day. Evidence continued to increase in regards to ice and water on the moon, as further exploration found that LRO and LCROSS discovered that water exists on the moon in the form of ice within permanently shadowed areas. The M3 carried by ISRO's Chandrayaan-1 showcased the first high-resolution map of the minerals that make up the lunar surface. Multiple areas were confirmed to withhold water and ice, permanently in shadowed regions of the moon. Sophia confirmed that there was water in the Clavius crater, and water was able to be distributed across the lunar surface. The newest map created by Sophia of the water distribution on the moon displays how the water moves across the moon's surface. This confirms that water exists in some areas of the moon. However, there is still much more research to be done as the possible origins of water and further distribution.
Our group has talked about different aspects of the exploration of water on the moon. I'm going to be talking about India's mission on sending a probe to the lunar surface and how it has a relation to do with the discovery of water on the moon. India has become the fourth country to successfully land a probe on the moon, right behind the Soviet Union, United States, and China. India's intention was to land on the south pole of the moon because it is believed that the south part of the moon contains frozen water. India is being the first nation to land on the south pole of the moon. It is believed that it can provide drinking water and oxygen, and it would be a stopping ground to fuel other rockets to have longer journeys, like the journey to Mars. Due to this exploration, it is due to attract young Indians into high technology fields within the space program. The Chandrayaan-3 mission will start the necessary work to understand what the lunar surface contains. Analysts estimate over 100 missions are planned across the decade to the moon in the cis lunar space, in hopes of finding new data about the moon. Why so much attention to the moon? It's believed that the government is driven to pursue lunar missions for national pride and scientific discoveries. Having India land on the moon has every relation on finding frozen water on the moon, making it its journey to find new data and new discoveries on what the moon has on an opposite side. Thank you guys so much for listening.